Today we're going to go over wrestling defense. The first line of defense is a single hip sprawl. A couple key points: you have to have a good stance. As you can see, I have a staggered stance. My right foot is in front of my left foot. I have a slight bend in my knees, and my hands are in front of my feet. As a person shoots in, you want to shoot your legs directly back and place your hands where your feet were. So my hands are going to land right where my feet are. As you are sprawling, you want to turn your hips slightly so the hip you are sprawling to is down and the opposite hip is up. Make sure all your weight is on the hip that you are sprawling to. This creates a lot of pressure for the person who is trying to take a shot on you. So now I'm going to start the video. As you can see, I'm in a good stance. My hands land where my feet were, and I have a lot of pressure on my right hip, and my left hip is up. As you can see, my hands are landing where my feet were. And I have a lot of pressure, hip pressure. Left hip up. Here it is again. As you can see, I'm throwing my legs back, directly back. Hip pressure, left hip up. So as you can see already, my athlete is not in a good stance. He does not have a staggered stance. His right foot is even with his left foot. He also needs to put more of a bend in his knees. One thing he is doing right is his hands are in front of his feet. As you can see right away, his hands are going directly down to the mat, and they are not landing where his feet is. Your hands need to land where your feet are. And right away you can see that his hips are not going back, and they're going directly down to the mat. Coming back. As you can see, he's putting his hands directly down to the mat. His hips are going directly down, and they are hitting the mat at the same time. His right hip and his left hip are hitting the mat at the exact same time. When you are sprawling and you're doing a single leg sprawl, you want one hip to hit the mat and have your opposite hip off of the mat. That creates a lot of pressure onto one hip, and it puts all of your weight onto that side. And it makes it very hard for a person to shoot on you. So coming back up, as you can see, his hands go directly down, and also his hips are going directly down to the mat. I'll draw a line so you can see that. His hips follow the line directly down. Directly down to the mat. And they are not going back. When you are sprawling, you want to throw your hips back and away from the person trying to shoot on you. If you do not create distance from you and your opponent, then it will be very easy for them to take a shot on you. So you have to throw your hips back. As you can see, his hips go directly down to the mat. So as you can see, my athlete is in a good stance now. He staggered his stance. His left foot is in front of his right foot. He still needs to have more of a bend in the knees. That's a simple fix. He just needs to bend his knees more. But his hands are still in front of his feet, which is good. So 2 out of 3. As you can see, his hands are landing where his feet is. Coming back, his hands are landing where his feet is. And he has the hip pressure. His left hip is hitting the mat first, and his right hip is still off of the mat, putting all of his weight on this hip. Coming back up, hip pressure, and his hands are landing where his feet is. Coming down, nice. Hips are going back. Hips are being thrown back now. Good. And hip pressure. Perfect. Perfect form. Once again, I'll point out hip pressure, right hip up. So some improvements that my athlete did make. He staggered his stance. His hands were landing in the right spot. He did have hip pressure and created distance from his opponent. One thing my athlete does need to work on is bending his knees more in his stance.